Hey everybody, we're here at SPTechCon Austin, about to start the live panel on SharePoint Hybrid. Getting ready in just a minute, so stay tuned. Let's take a look at the crowd we have here. You're all on the internet.
You're all famous. You're being live streamed on the interweb right now.
Well, we got customers to serve.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. And hopefully this will be mildly entertaining. I'll also say that we do want to try, if you have questions, we want to make participation harder. So if you have questions, it's kind of like the point of having a panel. It's asking questions and interacting with the panel. So we've got a few data points here to share. So I'm just going to give a little bit of the background to this project. Let me ask first, did anyone take the survey that I was pushing through social pretty aggressively?
There was a survey?
Well, thank you for participating in that. I know it was out there for 28 days. That's it, 28 days. And I know it felt like a lot more because of how much we were hammering people through social. But 28 days, we had about 630 respondents, 510 different companies from 54 countries. So it was pretty aggressive, the time frame around that, but we're very excited by the result there. For those that aren't familiar with what we're talking about, so my name is Buckley, and the founder of Collab Talk. We're for years have been talking about what is the real size and scope and opportunity around the hybrid SharePoint space. And so when I was talking at the MVP Summit last fall with Jeff Teeper and others, and Dan Holm and others on the at Microsoft and the product team about the desire to go and do a formal research project around this, Teeper immediately was like, yes, let's do this. I just want to make, he said, and Dan Holm says, yes, let's do that. And he says, well, we need to check first with Bill Bear, because Bill Bear is the hybrid guy, and we don't want to sign him up for something if he doesn't have the bandwidth, but he's like, of course, let's do this, Christian. So, and then we went live with it, and then he never responded to emails after that. No. Which tends to happen there. So, just to recognize this effort, this really was a community-wide effort, and we've got, so of course, Microsoft is the lead sponsor here. Pixelmill, Eric was actually the first one with Pixelmill to sign on and participate. I should say that AppPoint was number 2 to be like, you know what, let's get back to you, but we really want to do this. And then they weren't able to get the other gold sponsorship because it got sold out from under them. But we also have here, so we also have Tygraph, and Tygraph did not only a sponsor of the effort, but they actually provided a lot of the tooling and worked with the research team to do a lot of the analysis, so the stuff that's happening on the back end. Also here, we do have Pro Canyon Systems. Scott, where are you? Not in the room? Oh, okay. Did he leave? And do we have anybody else in? I know BNR isn't here. Then, of course, we had SPTechCon sponsoring us and providing this venue for us to come in and talk about this effort. So tonight, we're going to just very quickly here introduce ourselves. Well, that screen's terrible. Thankfully, I've got this here. But again, my name is Buckley, and so I spearheaded this thing. It's my company, Collab Talk, is just launched, but is a independent research and technical marketing services company. And so I'm going to be doing a lot more in the Microsoft ecosystem, these kinds of research projects. I've already got one that's going to be kicking off at the end of the summer. And then I'll just go through and just kind of introduce yourselves very quickly, because you're a relatively unknown person. Why don't you?
My name is Bill Bear. I'm a senior product marketing manager focused on hybrid. So I'm peers with Bill, so Bill gave me a little prep to come here. My name is Mark Cashman, senior product manager, focused mostly on SharePoint Online for the last 8 years, but obviously hybrid comes into a part because half of hybrid is SharePoint Online. and working with Bill and the team also on Delve and intelligence throughout Office 365.
All right. My name is Eric Overfield, president and co-founder of Pixel, Office Server Services MVP. We wanted to get involved in this kind of survey because I see so many of our clients thinking of hybrid, thinking of going to the cloud, and I wanted to have that data readily available for them, and no better way than have some, what was it, a management team, BYU management team?
Yeah, it's all graduate students, MBA students.
Perfect research for them, so it's like, sign me up, we want involved in that.
And I'm the sponsor that didn't get in fast enough. My name is DRCNS. I'm another Office Services MVP, and I like being able to help clients make the right decisions for them. So everyone's a little bit different, and their roads and their reasons are a little bit different. So it's a pretty unique study to help find some of those reasons.
I'm John White. I'm a Office Server and Services MVP. I know.
Old school.
Yeah, old school. CTO and co-founder of Unlimited Biz. We're the makers of TieGraph. One of our products, TieGraph for Office 365, does both on-premise and hybrid, basically on-premise and cloud analytics. So we're keenly interested in what the market looks like for doing one, the other, or both.
All right, so hopefully be thinking about some questions. Well, I've got a few data points here to share. I mean, it really is about discussion, and feel free to interrupt too. Let's interject. Let's make it lively. And so.
You know, I was thinking.
Good day, sir. I said good day to you.
Good day to you.
So let me give you, just kind of set it up here to give you some background on what's the size and the scope of this space. So as organizations start making that transition to the cloud, if you remember 4 or 5 years ago where Microsoft really started to position like the cloud, it's all about the cloud, and go to the cloud, there were a few of us, and granted, I was working at the time for an ISV that was in the migration administration space, that we had a lot of customers that had a lot of on-prem, and so we kept saying, well, what about this hybrid thing? And I go back and talk to Bill Barrett, and he's just like, yeah, this hybrid thing, there's a lot of customers around that. And Microsoft was, the directive was go towards the cloud. And I think as we learned as a community, and Microsoft certainly learned from customers around that it was going to be more of a transition. It was going to take more time. The topic of hybrid kind of rose to an official status of, well, Microsoft saying, hey, we need to go have strategy and messaging and content, and then develop features specifically for this, recognizing that it's not going to be a flip of the switch for some companies. Some it is. The transition to the cloud can be very easy. But others, that it will take time. They still need to go and make, get a return on investments that they've already made. And that's kind of what's led this. There's not been any accurate, community-wide data around the size and the shape of hybrid. In fact, there was a study that was done, and I know it's an internal Microsoft study that took 6 months, and I went through and sat with Bill going through some of those. There were 2 questions in that 6-month-long study that Microsoft paid who knows how much for, 2 questions around SharePoint. And it was a cloud readiness type thing. And so there were no answers to any of this around specifically on SharePoint. And then it's about the gaps. It's about understanding where are people struggling, where are there opportunities for ISVs, for SIs, but also awareness from customers of where they need to think about more intently of, hey, we want to go this direction, but hey, there may be this gap here. And then having, of course, that clear data will also help inform Microsoft, inform the community about where people are struggling with hybrid. So let me talk about the scope of research really quickly. So we wanted to go in and put numbers, definitive data around the market size, and understand those who are deciding to remain on-prem, because there is a large contingency today that want to stay there. But then those that, as part of their strategy, moving to hybrid. We want to identify those fears and concerns. Some of them valid, some of them, I would say, unfounded. There's a lot of fear out there that's just people that aren't aware of the solutions. And I hear security is always number one. And I always ask the question, it's like, do you have that much confidence in your own team to secure those servers versus a data center with everything that Microsoft or another vendor has for a private cloud option? But we want to understand those technical difficulties of moving to the cloud, and then what are customers actually taking advantage of? So there's the things that you have fear of, concerns about, and the things that you're all on board with. Yes, that makes sense for our cloud strategy. And then talk about the governance and administration, the overhead of managing hybrid environments, and ask people about that. So very quickly on the sizing, the most recent data actually came from last year, the future of SharePoint. I know there were some updated data points, and Mark shared some in his keynote. Jeff Tiefer shared it at the Nintex event, the InspireX event as well. I think that's the slide that you may have used the same one there. Over 200,000 organizations using SharePoint. So that's across all versions or all flavors of SharePoint. There's more than 50,000 partners worldwide that are in the SharePoint ecosystem. Over 1 million developers within those partners and within customers that work on SharePoint, which is pretty incredible. It's about a $10 billion ecosystem around that. So I don't know that there's official numbers of just the SharePoint piece, because Microsoft doesn't give out like that number. It's folded into kind of Office 365 and all the other components there. But we did our best to go and break some of that out for our estimates. And then according to Tiefer that he shared, greater than 60% of net new growth of SharePoint is coming through the cloud. So new customers, over 60% are coming to Office 365. And a petabyte of new data being added to SharePoint and Office, or one drive for business per day. Has that changed? Has that gone up?
Yeah, I don't think it's gone up, but it's definitely going steady.
And then, as I mentioned, we had 54 countries and 510 companies. So with that, I wanted to jump over. You know, I'll come back to that. So we'll show a little tie graph there. Let me just ask the question. So, the panel. When you talk to customers, what is the number one question or concern when they ask about hybrid? Anybody want to take that? And nothing jumps out.
I think you've already said it, and it's not that it's a surprise, but it's the security. Some of it is, how do I get to the cloud? And what does it mean to establish hybrid? I don't understand that yet. But then they take the consideration of, once I either move to the cloud or establish hybrid, am I making myself less secure, or am I making my deployment so complex that it becomes a challenge?
Yeah, you get the, I don't trust Microsoft on it. Why not? You made the point. You trust your own people more. But I think number two would be, there's a lot of blockers. There's a lot of reasons you can't go to the cloud. A lot of features that people depend on that they can't just lift and move yet. And that's why hybrid is so important, so that they can take the workloads that they can lift and move, put them up there, and until we get to a point where we can lift and move the rest.
I think there was actually a brilliant marketing move on Microsoft. The messaging that shifted that was about bringing cloud experiences down to on-prem. Like whoever came up with that needs to get like another like $20 or something.
That goes to the Bill Bear Fund.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the what kind of move, what kind of not. Well, I was going to say, I'm like, wait, so what's the value? I've got these licenses, our organization just went there, but now what? Okay, so should I move email? Should I move SharePoint? But I really want Planner, but I really want to have my portal on-prem because of some of the reason, or my team size can't go because of this, but how am I going to get everything else? So it's just what options are available.
For a lot of my clients, it's a lot of fear of knowing that once it goes to the cloud is massive, and if they have regulatory requirements for keeping it in a specific place for either grants or government contracts, then there's an innate fear that because they can't physically see it, that they don't know where it's at.
And I was actually going to ask, is Brad, are you in the room somewhere? GT?
You look at the cowboy hat.
Anyway, there was actually sitting with this company, event down in South Africa. went to one of their customers, and where they were, they had multiple vendors that were in there that they had just built out this custom project management solution all on-prem. And the individual that owned all the infrastructure in this meeting with the reporting of these vendors that had just finished building these brand new solutions said, I just signed a deal that we're moving everything to Office 365. Which just sounds great on the surface, except the fact that everything that they just spent months on and a lot of money building was not built for the cloud and didn't comply with all of the requirements around that system. So that's why, again, another reason to not just get caught up in the excitement of the sales experience, but actually understand the scope and the impact of the things that you have out there that you've built. So to having that generic fear of security is like one thing. I think a lot of those fears could be unfounded, but have specifics around that. If anybody has anything to add to that before I show the pretty picture.
Like I said, I think change control is also a big concern. Losing control over how things work. Sometimes things just show up. That never happens, right? And there's a certain fear of that. I don't have a problem with it myself. I think it's a good thing. We're all on the same platform. I think some organizations, particularly IT organizations, do need to be pushed a little bit. And then if they don't have any choice, that, to my mind, is a good thing, but that's not true in their mind.
Let me ask, does anybody have any questions about that concern? So we're talking about concerns of hybrid or concerns of moving to the cloud. Any questions from the audience? So everyone here is perfectly calm about moving to the cloud. No issues, no fears.
Who here is still on-prem?
Yeah, how many people are still on-prem? So those who said that you're still on-prem, how many, are you just doing the standing up and doing a selfie? Or is that?
No, I'm good. We're getting the crowd.
Just give me a hard time.
We do have a question from the internet, though.
Oh, it's really, okay, you got a question?
Hi. A question in terms of the issues of moving to the cloud. Well, there's the obvious advantage of moving to the cloud, but as John Peck pointed out, is that some of the challenges is that there are some things that are not yet available in the cloud that are on-prem, and I think to continue that conversation, perhaps those industries that depend upon certain regulatory agencies, or certain agencies, let's say, or institutions, in terms of any sort of validation or anything that needs to happen before the cloud. So I figured I'll put that out there for conversation, for to encourage this.
All right.
Yeah, I think so. I think the two parts are kind of the feature gap and just maybe the awareness of where is my data and what will happen to it if it were ever to be moved without my knowledge. The second one is really easy. The transparency that the team has been working on at the data center level, and certainly the SharePoint team is only adherent to wherever they're told to provision. And what tells it to provision is effectively the person where they sign up from, or when you sign up, you intentionally say, I am headquartered or want to be established in Dublin, or I want to be established in the west of the U.S. So you do have control of where you start. And you do then, once you are in a certain data center, you always are in a primary or a secondary in the same region that has the same rule set behind it. Obviously, when you start looking at the motion of what we've been doing with regional data centers like Germany, Canada, France, Japan, those are very distinct investments that Microsoft has made, again, at the data center level, where the SharePoint team just says, where is the data center? We'll deploy our bits. We love to spread the word, the knowledge and capabilities. But they adhere to all of those local regional data centers, and specifically you think about a really big one that we did a number of years ago for China. They had a really strict rule where Microsoft couldn't be the one who managed the data center. But we certainly control the feature sets that show up there, and if there's a problem with fix, we are certainly the engineering team behind it. But they have an operations team that is completely Chinese. But it meets all the regulatory and all of the certifications of the data center and the requirements of the government. And It's crazy. It took us about 2 years, but we got there. For the Chinese customer, they know exactly where their data is. They know exactly who manages it. They know the role that Microsoft plays in touching the data, and that's true for everywhere. Wherever you sign up, you may, if you just go to the website and sign up without asking questions or intentionally directing a little bit, you may end up somewhere that you didn't plan, but you certainly can go in a very planned manner into the data center of choice. I'll be shorter a little bit on the feature gaps. Historically, my role has been for 8 years to manage the gaps. And it used to be what was on-prem is not online. Now it's flipped in the last 2 years, more so. What is coming first to SharePoint Online is a candidate to come to on-premises. That's not to say there still aren't gaps and challenges of integration with customizations and things that these guys are really good at understanding and helping you with. But the feature gaps over the last 8 years, again, for me managing a list of 350 features and more being added every month, has gotten significantly less. And sometimes it just takes asking, what are you trying to do? What do you want to move first? If there's a specific thing that you can't do, why? Is there a way around it? And more so with some of the newest innovations and things that we want to enable in the cloud, those gaps have significantly gone in. But if you have specific questions or things about specific features or how might you go about it, love to hear it.
Any other thoughts? I would say that one thing that Microsoft is kind of really good at is that when people come and say, hey, we specify, like, we have these specific requirements. I'm in this industry, we need to have these approvals from these regulatory bodies. Microsoft has done a really good job at providing those lists and going after and chasing those certifications. And it's one of the reasons I say that, they're a very valid point is if you say, I'm in this industry, we must be certified by these 3 things, and you only have 2 of the 3, therefore we can't move. That's a valid, answer to that. But just the generic fear, concerns of, kind of all those things, I think are largely unfounded. It just takes time to get past some of those things.
Okay.
Yep, another question?
Another concern we have is a lot of companies, global companies, so.
We've got a mic over here, actually.
A lot of companies are global
Company.
Mic works. Canada is not only located
In one region.
so how is the performance for other regions?
Great.
Yeah, I think sorry, the microphone is. I can assume the question is a little bit around what about a geo-distributed company and in certain regions hitting performance issues. I know specifically some of the things that we'll talk more about in May certainly will be to start to address, how is it that different regions, branch offices, people that just are, farther away from home, wherever home might be, kind of back to the first question, where your primary data center is, but what about the experience beyond? So there is definitely work that we'll talk about and share in more detail around geo-distributing aspects of SharePoint, starting with maybe the personal space and moving towards the team space quickly. And you can kind of see a little glance of the pattern if you look at what the Exchange team does. When they think about geo-distribution, their unit of measure is the inbox, a person's inbox. Where does that sit? And so they're working on it, whether it's a move, somebody's going to be working somewhere for 2 years, move their inbox so it's closer to home, or certainly if there's a branch office always established in a different region, move everybody's mailbox that way. And we're thinking those same units. You can probably guess at what the units are, but without kind of exposing some of the fun of May 16th, which is just around the corner. But the team is definitely thinking about that. And the other component is at the base level of just transactional interaction with uploading a file, opening a page. If you've built a portal on publish and infrastructure, there's work that the team is doing just to make that go faster without you having to adjust what you've done. They're conscious of page loads. They're conscious of losing the user's attention when they turn away from it. And so they optimize every single page and all of the new modern experiences. They don't ship it until it has the right metric behind it that is a good experience, whether you're close to the data center or traveling. So a lot of work is conscious of what that experience is.
Garrison, you turned and made a comment, just you said that we focus on, making sure that we deliver the right experience. Do you not agree with that statement? That's right at the point that you turned around. That's all I'm saying. It's just an observation.
No, I think a lot of the not necessarily Microsoft. It's about how they develop their own solutions and their own workloads to do that. So some of the things that Microsoft writes code for generally may not actually be their fault.
Wait, you say Microsoft doesn't also control the internet?
That's Google, isn't it?
And there are 57 different species of aliens. I have no idea.
Another question.
So again, on the global company discussion, what's being done to account for not necessarily the performance from multiple countries, but meeting the regulations of having the citizens' data stored in their locale?
It's partially, the tough problem is if there are two countries, let's say a customer is in only two countries, we know that's not good, but, and there's one country that requires X regulatory, certain standards, and then the other one is completely the opposite and has other regulations. In those same countries, we will probably meet the standards from a data center perspective, but the split of where the customer individual is deployed out of. So in the region, we usually can certainly map to that. That is our kind of job priority one. But for the individuals that you may have the majority of everybody in region A, but some people who need to work with those people, the same set of content, there's work that they're thinking in terms of being able to federate two tenants together, so they have a multi-tenant solution. That's a little bit more today in the education space, just because the nature of they're kind of structured a little bit differently. You think about a region that has K through 12. Every school is its own entity. Maybe it's its own site collection, but up to a certain level, you have what would have been a farm as a tenant, and then they multiply maybe different grades, different regions. And so there's some complexity to that, and there's some architecture things they've been doing to address that. But from a regulatory perspective, kind of back to the first answer, you can choose where you're going to have your primary data center as a company. And as a geo-distributed nature, when we get to that, you can choose where else you can obviously deploy those individual bits that we'll share more about, which then you'll have to ask yourself, do those countries where those people are going to be deployed meet the same regulations? And the answer is usually yes, because if one does, the other does as well. But think about the difference of in the EU versus America. EU just has EU model clauses and certain, standards of different bodies, and in those regions we tackle as much as we can as fast as we can.
Well, no, it sounds like we'll get maybe a little too much in the weeds, but there are some customers that have come across years ago that have used replication as an answer to that, replication of the data between it. And so, and there's pros and cons to doing that model and the complexity there. And I think that's, again, go back to the word governance. A lot of those kinds of issues then become a governance issue. How do we, if we're going to go and do this, and what is the management overhead? What do we have to do to make this possible? It may be the answer of reduction in some of the capabilities. We limit what some of those regions have access to and can do. But here are the common denominator features and things that we can do across these systems, and to allow people to communicate and collaborate with each other. All right, I'm going to jump over to this other slide here, show a little bit of data. So this is, actually, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you see here? I'm going to do your job for you, John.
It's all yours. I just picked a pretty picture.
So what's it? You see a little bit of a snapshot here. This is so you have some insight into what the research team has been able to pull in, and so here from this view, this is of course just a screenshot. It's not the live view of the Power BI and what has been the tool set built out by tyGraph. So there's a lot of depth behind this. But what's been great from a research standpoint is to be able to go and click in and look at the responses and the concerns, the focus areas around each of the individual constituencies. Those who are on-prem and their strategy is to remain on-prem. Those who are on-prem and their strategy is to move to hybrid versus their strategy is to move entirely to the cloud, and then the time frame for each one of those things. And so we're able to look at, by country, we're looking at each of those constituencies, how they answer each of those questions. We're even going and looking kind of backwards. We're saying the organizations that are concerned about this issue, what's the makeup of those concerns of those companies? Do we see patterns in size of company or region around the world? So there's really just fascinating data that's coming from using this tool, using Power BI to really slice and dice the data set. So I think I mentioned this Sunday night during the lightning talk. Does anybody remember when I mentioned who the #2 responding country in this survey? New Zealand. That's a Debbie Ireland thing. So Debbie Ireland, another MVP, so she did a nice push there. One of our sponsors down in the region is SharePoint. So they were very nice to promote that out there. One of the other data points here.
If you want to pop back?
Yeah, you want to talk about it?
One thing I would point out is I find the interesting the mix. How many people are still completely on premise? It's almost half. That's a pretty big number. I also like the year getting started with SharePoint. There's a big spike 2003, big spike 2007, a big spike 2013. I don't see a big spike in 2016.
Yeah.
No, but there's still people who get in 2017.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I've seen it.
Yeah, and I actually think the thing that you'll see out of this as well is why are there now so many investments in hybrid capabilities? And the reality is the mix. It used to be a much higher number of on-prem, or I should say on-prem only. And to see people who are actually taking a step forward, or just a step sideways, because they just want to grow in ways that maybe they can't on-prem, but that they certainly can online, and not in a way that it is a huge headache. It's just a piece of work to then have additional capabilities, and that's hybrid.
It's also interesting to go in, part of what we also researched, those organizations, why did they initially start using SharePoint? And we're also looking at some of the differences in answers between those that are remaining on-prem and so the focus areas. And we are seeing some differences there, so that's something else that will be on the report. I guess I should have mentioned at the beginning, the final research report is going to be available through all of our sponsors. So each of the sponsors of the report will be doing promotions around that. So it'll be freely available on the 17th of this month. So we're very close to having the full results out. Let me jump over to the next one. So a little deeper insight into this, the go-forward strategy, because this has been a big question. Regardless of where you are, the report does go through and look at those that are hybrid today. Are you planning to remain on hybrid? Are you going to move entirely to the cloud? There's even a couple that aren't fully in the cloud that have said we're going to be moving back to a hybrid solution. I don't think we had anybody that said, so just so you don't worry, that they're fully on cloud now and they want to go back fully on-prem. But there are certainly customers that started off, and we're going to look at the size of some of the answers, the responses there, that are fully in the cloud, but then realize that they want to do some things that they need to have a hybrid solution to go and do. They have some requirements for that. So we do look at that. Any thoughts here? Let's go forward strategy.
I'd love to just kind of take a slice of this pie that you're looking at. Just a show of hands, do you agree if where you sit, it feels right? Does this feel like fake data, or does this feel like, yeah, that sounds about right?
Alternative data.
Yeah.
Good question right over here.
I see where these numbers make sense. I did have a question though on to use a hybrid solution. Your slide before said how many people were already in a hybrid solution. How many of them is that part of the pie, or is that for people that are on-prem that want to go to using the hybrid?
So I don't have the data point here in that, but you're right, there is some overlap. So the question was, how many people that are saying we're in hybrid today, when we asked them what's your go-forward strategy, answer, use a hybrid solution. So it's kind of like we maintain that. Now the reality is that we do then have the data on the various hybrid components and what changes. So we can actually look at organizations that say, we're on hybrid today, we're going to remain in hybrid going forward, but the things that they're going to go focus on, the solutions, might be very different from those that are hybrid today, but moving to the cloud within the next 3 years. So that's part of the analysis that we're able to go and do and say, those that, and that's even, that's information for all of the vendors that participate in this to say, it's like, well, those that are planning to stay within hybrid or stay within on-prem, why? That's an answer that Microsoft then wants to be able to say, well, are we missing something? It's that gap. Like, Mark, keep it up. Come on. You know, he said you're doing the gaps. You know, he says he's doing the gaps. Yeah, so, you know, I mean, it's fascinating data to look at. Yeah, there's a question.
Yes, with the go-forward strategy, does the study further break down these allocations by industry to see where the prevalence is of like versus hybrid, continuing short-term and online, like to see where's the major, where's the priority?
By industry, by company size.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Give us some sort of quick cliff notes per se.
Not here that I haven't shared.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry. Yeah.
Can I just ask a follow-up to that?
Yes.
Very simply, companies that tend to have sensitive data, did you see that trend more out in the results that they were shying away from the cloud?
So that's another result that we very much are going to focus on. The question is those that are concerned about security, that are concerned about data out in the cloud, that have those sovereignty issues or questions that are out there, where are their concerns? That's exactly the kind of thing that we're going to go in and focus on and share the data around that. So we did capture that. There are differences in the things that they are concerned about that other companies that are moving forward are clearly there's a difference in what they're concerned about, but we're showing those differences in priorities of what they're focused on and what they have fears of.
Not a lot are planning on staying completely on-prem, that's for sure. That's on the table.
Well, what I can say is that so we are, you know, there's obviously the size of the market. One of the goals was, as I shared, that we're trying to make projections of where we see this going. One thing that is clear from the data is the size, and let me clarify too, this study is just around SharePoint. When we're not asking questions and considering, well, your hybrid components of the Exchange side of things or any other hybrid technology. This is just about the SharePoint components. The size of SharePoint from a hybrid perspective, the pie is getting bigger, and we're making projections. We can actually show over the last 5 years, it's based on those numbers, projecting where it's going to go. And then, while the size of the pie is getting bigger, the percentage of on-prem does decrease, but doesn't go away. That's something that I think it took Microsoft a while to recognize that it was a larger piece of the pie than they thought. But it is going down. But it's the hybrid piece of the pie in the next 5 years becomes the largest piece of the pie. Yeah.
Why should customers feel that the cloud is as secure as on-prem?
It's not, it's more.
Ask the question.
Oh, the question was, why should people feel the cloud is as secure as on-prem? I personally think it's far more secure because I think the people they hire to implement this, if nothing else, it's going to be far better than the people I could ever hire.
One thing I would say, so I went down and visited one of the Microsoft data centers a few years back. I won't say where it is, but in the central Washington State area. And has anybody seen the original Tron movie? Remember that big door? Yeah, we went through that door. It was just like, it's like we're just like kept going really slow, and we're like, waiting for this giant thing to go. So I think that thing can survive a nuclear blast or something. But yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to if you understand, the certifications, the processes that they go through, and stand that up to if you're managing it on your own. Then I would really kind of look at, your understanding of what your team is able to provide versus what the level, the quality of service that's provided through a data center that Microsoft provides. Any other thoughts there?
I would just tell you the teams, each individual product team has a security team focused on how their product can be more and more secure in the cloud as a service, both from a developer's perspective, through API, for how we build it, and then everything. Have you ever heard the 9 layers of security, and how they pitch Office 365? It's at every level. fingerprint and biometric, getting in, like he said, as the good program to get into the data center. It is a phenomenal effort, and that's per product. So I can tell you the security team for the SharePoint team is led by an amazing team. And of course Jeff Tieper gives them a little tip of the hat, but they all go into this blue hat, red pill, black hat, crazy thing every day, and they are on it. The best part about the service is what they call an OCE. It's an on-call engineer. And so imagine in the world of every 2 to 3 years a product gets built, and once it's delivered, it's sort of like, and it's out there. But an on-call engineer is an engineer who develops software. And if there is something that's either being attacked, needs to be fixed, just as buggy, whatever, they get the call and they stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning. And that same person used to do this, and they're out for a couple of years until we start the claim phase again. But it's just more indicative of they are on it every day, building so that everything, nothing can be foolproof. We never say it is secure. We talk about it that we have the highest security measures that we put in place, and it is true. And that's just for the product level. If you talk about the data center team, if you talk about the router team, if you talk about how we monitor the internet and how we have monitoring systems everywhere, it is a phenomenal scale. And if you really want to go deep and read more, I would encourage you to go to the Trust Center. Great white papers if you like to learn that way. Great videos if you kind of want to give a tip of the spear. But it is an amount of R&D that goes into the product, being Office 365, Azure, other components that we have. There really is a scale that's unprecedented. It's quite amazing. But every day they want that to be better. It's not that the job is done. And when you think about the on-call engineer, they take the call, they make the fix, and then they say, please do something so that I don't have to be up at 2 in the morning. And that's where you start to ask, what is John's answer, which is, it's hard to hire for that at a scale that, you take, and I think really any cloud vendor has to go that way. But I can tell you, the way that Microsoft approaches it is job one.
Christian, you have a question.
Give me 1 second. So, that was a lot of jargon. I actually agree with it all. Did that answer your question?
Jargon? What is jargon?
Because to me, it is a no-brainer. Very few many organizations put the level of effort to security from getting into the building to actually getting onto the server to how your data is striped across multiple centers so that nobody could actually pull it together, including Microsoft, without your user pass. So, yeah. Question?
I have a question regarding, it's secure, we know it's perfect, great.
Perfect. Not perfect.
Second question, our company, we provide medical services, and we have 2 big environments. One environment is electronic medical records. We provide electronic medical records for jails. It's pretty secure, and we have it on premises. Now, the corporate office, we work with Office 365. We just moved to Office 365. Great. Our biggest problem and concern that, let's say we want to move to Office 365 with our EMR product. We never get good support when you call to Microsoft Office 365. Like, when you have a problem, well, I just want to know how people feel about calling first-tier support and what's the experience and how Microsoft actually takes that support. You call them, you never get the right answer, you wait tears, days and days and days, and you never get the result until you get to the right person, like it takes so many gray hair.
So I may be stepping on a landmine here, but I am.
Every time I do a panel with you, there's this thing that Mark is the token Microsoft guy out there that gets beat up about. You get the nicest guy gets beat up around some of the answers.
It's funny how quickly a blue badge can turn red. But no, to step on the landmine a little bit, just a quick show of hands, and don't think that I don't take it seriously or take any offense to what you might say by raising your hand. Would you agree, have you ever called support that statement is true? All right. So the level of support, certainly there is a level of support that is free. So take that as, everybody does have access to support. What happens when you call, of course, like any agency that takes the call, is certainly to try to triage as best they can. Is it a known issue? It is something that they understand. Where support
That's
started,
good feedback.
but where support started, if you think about what went to the cloud first, was Exchange. And Exchange is what the support team grew out of. Not to say that they don't train and pull people in, just like we have SharePoint MVPs, they do have SharePoint support, people. But why they kept continued to then bring in the engineers to be on support calls was there was a gap in terms of people being able to understand, like, what did you just say, site collection, huh? And I'm not trying to make fun of it, but it was a workload that has some complexities that's nothing like email or calendar. So there is somewhat of a smaller pool of people that can really narrow in on the fix, or that there would be a fix and understanding it. That being said, they always take it super, super seriously. And that it may take time is that it sometimes it takes time to triage what is the issue, can we even address it. It always goes to the team. I mean, they call it the red room. And there's the red room for feature release, and there's red room for fix. Red room. So without Jack Nicholson's face popping through your gateway, it's a problem area. And I would tell you it's a very large team, the support team. And they're sometimes spread thin when there's issues. Sometimes it's the complexity of understanding and finding the right person, because they have to first understand what is the problem. Even though you just told them, they still have to understand who do we go to. But that's something that, if you look at from the spend of it, what costs us a lot of money to run the service, it's support. And that's not just because there's a lot of issues, it's because there's complexity to figuring out the problem and then solving it. But when they do get to a time of resolution, it is faster than anything's ever been done for on-premises. To get you a fix through a cumulative update, the service gets patched and fixed and improved and new features, and it's light years different than on-premises. That's not to excuse your experience. And there were so many hands, as obviously, when I write a trip report, I like to give the good and the bad. I can include that where it needs to be.
It'd be interesting, and I know we won't ever see this, but to be able to see like that, the mean time of resolution of that, and maybe see a trend over time. I'm sure it's getting better. I mean, that would be a good thing to go and tout. But, it's always I know a difference to sharing actual numbers and things there. I just want to show really quick here. So some of the questions about like going in. This is just a very the next slice into that go forward strategy. This is the response of those organizations that say, hey, we're going forward. We're in hybrid today, but our go forward strategy is to move fully into SharePoint Online. And you can see that the totals of the answers there of where they have their environments today and the time frame for these. These are just a couple data points, but that we are going to be looking at. Here's the overall, and here's the response from this constituency around those questions. So that's some of what we go through in the report. And I know that we've just got a few more minutes here. There's some prizes to give away or something in another 10 minutes or so, but I want to leave opportunity for a few more questions here. But we talked about those concerns about the cloud. So of the responses of our full data set, these are the top 3 concerns. Is this consistent with everyone here?
Anyone disagree?
I expect to see change control hybrids, not. That's interesting. Yeah.
I don't know if it's specific to them.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, of these top concerns, do you feel they're hard facts in your mind, like, yes, that is absolute truth? Or those are my perceptions, and I still need to dig in and understand more about it before I'm convinced?
Has anyone stopped moving forward or feel like they're unable to move forward with hybrid or a move to the cloud because of one of the 3 of these issues?
I think a lot of people right now, at least that I talk to, are the third one really gets to them around the branding and flexibility, just because of the major shift happening currently between classic and modern experiences, and they're caught up in the middle between what they could do on-prem and still can do versus going to modern and waiting for those experiences to come that haven't been created yet.
I know, and Eric, I mean, this is just to take a drink, of course. I mean, this is your area of specialty here. So you talking to customers about that issue with hybrid? I mean, do you have any other insights into specific concerns or the discussions that you're having with customers about hybrid or moving fully to the cloud?
I would say it's John was saying change control. So we do something on the cloud, then they change it on us. Like, wait a second, so now our great interface doesn't work. And as Darren's been saying, so many things are changing. It's difficult. It's a hard decision, but to me, it's around the change control.
Okay, one thing I want to say is more on performance. I know we talked about that a little bit. Those already in the cloud, they say, oh, this is slow. And when you start branding, it's even slower. So I know, is there a plan or make it kind of faster?
Yeah, please outline specifically what you're going to go through.
I mean, from a performance perspective, there's obviously the underpinning platform changes that we can make from a storage perspective. For the pages that we create, we certainly optimize them to be performant. They don't go out the door until X metric has been met. There is work being done at the infrastructure level for publishing. So if you are building a custom portal in Office 365 today, without waiting for Microsoft to come out with anything new, you can certainly do that. Microsoft has our full company intranet that is now in Office 365. So I signed into the Microsoft Web. It's called MSW. And it is actually more performant than it used to be on premises. But I won't tell you that that wasn't a piece of work for that team to look at what was built on premises, look what they wanted to move online, take some considerations, maybe negotiate a few features here and there. But as an end user, I can hit the portal, and by the way, it's fast, it's mobile accessible now. But it is built on the old published infrastructure, which they do intend to improve purely for anything that's been built on it. And that's about a third of what people do in SharePoint Online, are custom portals. And in fact, they're high transactions, so lots of people hit the portal. Not everybody hits every single team site, but everybody hits the portal. So we see it. It doesn't mean that it's slow for everybody. But there are things that you can do to a portal that he will be expert in and telling you shouldn't do that. And the things that you should be able to do that we should do better for. And we're conscious of that as well.
You know, a common thing that we saw with new SharePoint deployments, I mean, early on, was that customers were going and they had access to like everything they paid for, and then they turned everything on. Just lit it up. We paid for it, we'll do it. Why is it going slow?
Yeah. One server.
Yeah, and that was a single server.
With SQL.
I think that the performance you'll find on SharePoint Online, if you actually looked at the metrics, like if you were storing the metrics, you'd find that you're probably getting a better service overall with SharePoint Online. Today, in one of my demos, yeah, it went slow, but I might have been wireless here, so I couldn't really stay because the Wi-Fi has been not always the greatest. It's been most spotty. So I think overall it's going to be better because SharePoint farms on-prem seem to go down a lot because someone tripped on a cord or they decided to do a new feature release and the new WSP just took down the farm and, oh, we forgot about this, we're down for a day. SharePoint Online normally doesn't have those kind of issues, and I know they take it very seriously. When I talk to the engineers, performance is hugely important to them. Your customizations, though, could kill it fast, and so there's some white papers that Microsoft's working on. There's a session that a gentleman, Russ Moore, did for Ignite, this last Ignite, where he talked about the better ways of customizing SharePoint, thinking about performance, and he went into some of the deep details.
There's actually a great website as well, if you like going and reading and actually taking some actionable things from it. It's an easy one to remember. It's just aka.ms/tune, T-U-N-E. And the focus of it is how to optimize your network for Office 365. But for SharePoint, it goes into everything that we just were answering, how to follow best practices. We would love them to be fewer, you have to do this, you have to do that. But there are some things that you may just have done funky, and SharePoint works better if you do it a little less funky.
Could you give that domain one more?
Yeah, it's aka.ms/tune. Think about tuning your network.
Along those lines, I think it was important to know that, you know, the way the development model and the way we used to build customizations has drastically changed over the last few years. And so if you haven't updated the way that you're building a lot of those solutions, there's a lot of things that you can do to also help improve performance from the other side of it.
Yeah, we used to direct customers. There's some of the options for like the WAN optimization vendors and other things, but I think at the product level, certainly tuning the network, there are options out there, and then it also is necessary to make sure that you optimize what you deploy, the components that you're using, be aware of what are the use cases, where the people that are doing what, that are geographically dispersed, so you can even tune it based on how they're using the platform.
So I just wanted to say that these pretty much were my concerns when I showed up here 3 days ago and shipped the not as concerned about these anymore?
We're concerned about completely new things.
No, the other things are sort of
Concerned about the next tornado that's coming.
I'm still concerned a little bit about things like apps just appearing out of nowhere that IT is, or that everybody's asking IT.
Feature
you know,
releases.
we don't even know about it, right? So that's still there. And I think that,
You have teams.
and then potential costs associated with that. So if something drops into the app, right, the ecosystem, and then people start using it, and they're like, they pull it away because it costs money. And I'm still concerned a little bit about that, and how to manage that.
So a lot of this focus was what Bill was talking about around caution around change management and the issues that it causes. I'd love to give you like just the 2 minutes of how we try to tackle that, because we know a lot of people still aren't looking where we're putting things. It's hard to get eyeballs on anything anyway, except for new shiny objects, which then really raises the concern anyway. But from a change management perspective, there is a change management team that really looks at what are you going to ship, when are you going to ship, it's a big feature, is it a significant change, or is it additive? You know, is there going to be a big PR moment, or is it going to be a soft launch? And obviously some of those things are kind of trickery and witcher things. But there is motions that we go through every team, and I think the SharePoint team does a really nice job. Part of its marketing, part of its engineering is anytime you're going to release a feature, big or small, it goes through a number of things. One of the important ones is the message center. But before that, it goes on to the public roadmap. And the challenge there is not every person is created equal when they put it on the roadmap. And sometimes, like we have the May 17th event, there have been some things that we've decided not to put on the roadmap just for a little bit, just from a moment perspective. But we also made the decision last May that when we were going to be introducing new capabilities, that nothing would light up on May 4th. So last year the event was on May 4th. And we
This is the better date.
It is the better date. Yeah. Thanks, Christian. So on May 4th, we made a lot of announcements. We'll do that again at the same scale, a little bit bigger, I think. But nothing will take effect immediately. Like, they won't have the Apple moment. Today, go get it. And they can do that, and they should do that, because it's really exciting, what they do and how they do it. But ours affects enterprises all over the world immediately, just like your concerns. So our intent, if that's one motion, is we want to make a big splash announcement, but nothing will change probably for a number of weeks. Some of the features may not even come until a night time frame, but we do want to talk about them. Heads up is, if you're paying attention, but I guarantee you the world will not tune into that. We hope a ton of people do. But so we've got the public roadmap, we've got the message center, that's a direct email to admins of Office 365. That gives them a real detailed thing about here's what's coming, here's the change, here's what you need to do to go read more. Maybe read the blog, read the KB article, go to TechNet, and we direct you that way. The last mile is, of course, the big PR push. So, granted, teams might have just shown up, but man, if you've been paying attention, that thing's been showing up for the last 4 months.
Yeah, but if you're relatively new, maybe now, the thing I'm concerned about is, what do you said something about performance is bad, we can enable everything. Well, the default is to enable everything. I really love that new fake search feature that lets me search for asterisk everything, and every user just loves it. It just kills this,
Yeah.
My point is that if we're worried about performance, and I still am somewhat concerned about that.
Yeah.
It seems like we'd want to be able to manage it the other way around. We need to enable things, not necessarily.
Yeah, and one of the things that has come about in the last 2 to 3 years in terms of the change of the stamp, they've created this mechanism that every time we need a new farm, it's automated and you get this massive, next farm. That has changed significantly the footprint of it. A lot of that has been passed down on premises. If you think about the min roll advantages now in 2016, a lot of it is because our team needed to manage better, and when they had a new footprint, not have it be such a cost. But they've been scaling that out to get the aspect of how many people are signing in, how big of a farm, how many customers, what type of search experience, and really tuning that over time, especially as the service scales, has been something it's an entire team dedicated to getting that stamp right. And when they need to augment and change the stamp, even in flight, they do that. And a lot of it is around performance or sometimes storage scale.
So with that, I think any final thoughts before we close it out? Well,
one of my questions would be, how many of you are familiar with user voice? So a few of you. Microsoft opened up an outlet for user voice for you to be able to provide direct feedback that's reviewed on a regular basis with product teams themselves. So if something isn't there or is there that you like, adjusted, don't like, put your feedback there. And if it gets voted up enough times, which means other people agree, disagree, or hope to agree with you, then it will get discussed by the product team and hopefully maybe become a roadmap item if it's something that's really important to you.
I would say there's also very active discussions. I think there's probably equal number of Microsoft people than from community out on the tech community. So that's another place where if you're not sure yet what you want to, how to articulate your request for user voice. I mean, you can actually go into the Microsoft tech community as well. There's a lot of hybrid threads that are on there. I think Bill is on most of those, not all of them. But answer that. But they're actively on there, and I believe your measurements, your commitments are now to all of active participation there. But they're again really healthy interaction with Microsoft folks that they are paying attention to that. Then definitely user voice after that.
I'd like to just, 30 seconds on two topics that we didn't quite get into that are very hybrid related is partly just thinking through if hybrid is of interest or something you want to take advantage of, sort of how do you get there? How do you get into a hybrid state? And is it scary or isn't it? I think there's just to consider that isn't as hard as it used to be. It wasn't, hire somebody for 2 to 3 months just to establish some workload or essence of single sign-on that works across domains. Especially from a SharePoint perspective, we've made it more of a wizard. Click, 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 sign in, point to the thing you want to take advantage of, hybrid sites, hybrid files, hybrid search. But then that leads into the other thing, is just to consider what are the capabilities of hybrid. It used to just be single sign-on. I can get from site to site, and I put myself from one to the other without having to sign in again. But we've really, I think, gone light years ahead of that compared to where we started. With hybrid search, hybrid auditing, hybrid taxonomy, the ability to have hybrid sites where if you're in the SharePoint home, you can see sites from online and on-prem, and to navigate to OneDrive for Business, Yammer, Office 365 Video, and Delve, and have those all be a hybrid experience for a period of time or for a long period of time. It is supported in a lot of different ways, but the capabilities are hopefully of interest of why we should do it in the first place.
Yeah, we hope to provide some insights into what other customers are doing with all of those other workloads. There's a number of other, that's like not even half the list of the things that are available out there, and who's doing what, where people are focusing. So hopefully you'll get some details out of that of things that you may not even yet be aware of. So please, when you get a chance, it's coming out on the 17th, and the week of the 17th, it should be right on the 17th. But again, you'll see, I'm sure, you'll get multiple email and social tweets and other postings you'll see out there from all the sponsors of the research. Certainly from myself, my team at CollabTalk, you'll see that. You can go to collabtalk.com and sign up for the newsletter, because this is just the first of several research projects that will be happening just this year. So definitely want to get those that are interested in hearing about this on a regular basis, these types of topics. That's a great thing to go sign up for. But otherwise, I just want to thank each of the panelists, so John and Darcy and Eric and Mark, and thanks for coming back from vacation. We pulled him back away from his family for this. And then, but especially AppPoint for sponsoring that. I'll point at you, and actually for filming as well. AppPoint also provided filming services, so I'm not paying you anything for that. Sorry.
What? You promised.
We really appreciate that. And now, prices.